We are live on YouTube, and we are still welcoming members of the press, but we are ready to roll any moment here.
Yeah, just let me know when, Andrew.
Okay, it looks like most of pretty much everyone who registered is in the attendees list now. So I'd go ahead and kick it off, Mary Lynn.
Great. Welcome, everybody, to our press conference announcing the Community Benefits Partnership Agreement that the Mayor and Councilmembers Schneer and Guerra have negotiated with UC Davis and Wexford Science and Technology. We're going to have the Mayor kick this off, and they'll be describing all the benefits that Aggie Square will bring to the neighborhoods in terms of jobs and housing. I'm going to send out a press release and also post it on engagesac.org now, so you can have the provisions of the agreement in front of you while this is going on. So we're going to have Mayor Steinberg kick it off. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary Lynn. And thank you to everybody for being here today for what is a major milestone for the city of Sacramento and UC Davis. I want to begin by expressing some thank yous, and if I don't get everybody by name, I will thank you personally, because this has been the product of now several years and now many intensive months of work between UC Davis, the city of Sacramento, most importantly, our community, the community that we serve and represent. My first thank you is to Chancellor May, who I will have the privilege of introducing and who will speak after I do, and his entire leadership team. This is a vision that, that Gary May had when he was the leader at Georgia Tech University and what was one of the pioneers of what was called and what is called Tech Square. And when he came to Sacramento, when he came to Davis, he made this project a signature priority of his chancellorship, and the university is better for it. And certainly our community is better for it. And we are very, very grateful to you and your entire leadership team. I also want to thank Doug Woodruff and his team at Wexford. The developers, you're going to hear more from them. They are the nation's expert in developing these educational entrepreneurship hubs around the country that combine the best of a city, the best of a university, and the best of the private sector to create economic benefits for the entire region and for the community in which they're located. I want to thank our city staff for really doing an unbelievable job of ensuring that the city's interests are always protected and serving us in such an important way. Leslie Fritchie and John Dangberg and Danielle Foster, Michael Jasso, among many others, my team, Scott White, Mary Lynn Delinga, and others. Thank you. I want to thank Assembly member and former City Council member Kevin McCarty, who was on the call here today. He brought some significant resources as a state assemblyman to this project early on and continues to fight for this vision, and you'll hear from Kevin in a few moments. I think my most loud thank yous go to my city council colleagues, Vice Mayor Jay Schneer and Councilmember Eric Guerra. These are, I know we politicians sometimes, praise each other lavishly. These two are great public officials, and they have rolled up their sleeves on behalf of the community, and they have done incredible amount of community outreach and insisted throughout that the community's interests be represented. And the product that we will present you today will show you that they not only talk the talk, they followed through. And so for me as mayor of this city, I saw this back 2 years ago, and I see this now as the single biggest economic development opportunity in our city and our region that has come along for a long time. And I want to say to the community that I understand the historic distrust between community and government. Too often, historically, new development has meant redlining or congestion or displacement or other negative impacts. We do not need to look farther than 100 miles west of Sacramento to see a jobs boom accompanied by a housing and congestion crisis. This community benefits agreement that the council will approve on the 6th of April and that we unveil today is not only an essential part of the Aggie Square project, it is so fundamental that I'm going to propose that the city requires similar CBAs for any new major development projects in our city going forward. I am proud that this is the most significant economic development project in decades in Sacramento. It will not be the last. But let's talk just for a moment about why this is so significant. 5,000 construction jobs, between 3,500 and 4,000 permanent jobs. There are many key elements that my colleagues will cover in more detail, but I want to highlight two. This city council and your mayor is committed to a funded affordable housing strategy in this city, throughout the city. For while we strive for more job creation, the definition of inclusive economic development is that we do not displace. We ensure that the benefits of the new job creation extend to the communities where the development is located. We commit through this CBA to a minimum, and I emphasize a minimum, of $50 million of public and philanthropic resources to invest in the Stockton Boulevard corridor to ensure that people are not displaced and that we are building more workforce and affordable housing, a minimum of $50 million from a variety of sources, including the city's general fund and housing trust fund. And secondly, we aren't just articulating in the CBA an aspiration that local residents be first in line to be trained, to be educated, and to get the high wage jobs in life science, in innovation, and in technology. The CBA requires, it uses the word shall, minimum percentages, 20 and 25% over time of all jobs that are created through Aggie Square shall go to people who live in the neighborhoods where people deserve and need the help the most. And so those are two very significant pillars of this community benefits agreement, among others. And I look forward with pride to taking this before the City Council on the 6th of April with Councilmember Guetta and Vice Mayor Chenier, and to moving forward on something, on a project that will be transformative, not just for our city, but for our neighborhoods and for thousands of our people. Now let me turn it over to my friend and partner in this endeavor. UC Davis talked for a long time, and we talked for a long time about UC Davis coming across the river in addition to their obvious, very clear and important presence at the Med Center. And Chancellor May said he wanted to do this, and man, as he followed through. Really proud to work with you, Gary, and I turn it over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Steinberg. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone this morning. Good morning. I want to thank the mayor, first of all, as well as Vice Mayor Jay Chenier, Councilmember Eric Guetta, for our great working relationship and partnership with the city of Sacramento. I want to thank all the neighborhood leaders who served on our community committees and shared their input to help guide the vision for Aggie Square. I also want to thank Jim Behrens and Doug Woodruff and the whole team at Wexford Science and Technology We're thrilled that they've partnered with us on Aggie Square and are investing in the Sacramento region. And finally, I want to thank Bob Seeger, our Chief of Campus Planning, who is leading the design of Aggie Square, as well as U.S. Congresswoman Doris Matsui, State Senator Richard Pan, and Assembly Member Kevin McCarty, who were all very early and ardent supporters of Aggie Square. I'm thrilled that we're celebrating yet another milestone for Aggie Square today. Since we started these efforts back in 2018, we've been clear that we want Aggie Square to not only benefit the university, but we want it to be good for business and good for the community. So Mayor Darrell Steinberg and I have worked together to involve community members and ensure their voices were heard and incorporated as plans for Aggie Square take shape. Today's announcement is the result of these ongoing efforts. Our new Community Benefits Partnership Agreement is a roadmap for ensuring that local residents are included in the success story of Aggie Square. It includes significant benefits for the Sacramento community, and in particular, the neighborhoods surrounding Aggie Square. And these include a $50 million plus investment in affordable housing, jobs for local residents, and this includes 5,000 construction jobs, and a commitment that 20% of the new jobs at Aggie Square will be for local residents, as you heard the mayor say. An Aggie Square Community Fund to support neighborhood priorities like youth programs, workforce training, and local entrepreneurial support. This will create a platform for community voices to help set investment priorities. UC Davis funding of up to $1.1 million to help further the city of Sacramento's vision for Stockton Boulevard to increase biking, walking, and transit use. With this Community Benefits Partnership Agreement, we have the chance to create new opportunities and serve the community in transformational ways, all while building a dynamic innovation hub that will propel economic development and serve the greater region. Aggie Square will attract and generate startups and attract industry partners to the region. It's a space to develop and create new technologies and new innovations, from finding cures to diseases to finding more sustainable ways to feed the growing planet. Overall, it's estimated that Aggie Square will generate $5 billion in economic impact each year for the region. In its first phase, we also expect that Aggie Square will generate millions annually in new revenues for the city of Sacramento. So we're all looking forward to much more to come, and thanks again. And now I'll turn the floor over to our good friend and partner, Doug Woodruff from Wexford.
Thank you, Chancellor, and thank you for your partnership. For those that don't know, we were selected in a very rigorous selection process that the university put on once they decided to go forward with Aggie Square. And we are blessed to be able to be chosen and work not only with the mayor and the chancellor, but a great group of people both at the city and at the university. Wexford has developed 15 knowledge communities across the country, and never have we come into a city and been welcomed with as open arms as we have by both the city administration and the university, but also the community as well. We spent the last 15 months working through a ton of planning for the site and the hard work around design and construction. But the most fulfilling component of this for us has been our ability to touch through almost 200 community meetings the people that live and work in the surrounding neighborhoods. We believe that today's announcement of the Community Benefits Agreement is probably the most comprehensive approach we have been able to partner with a university and a city to make sure it gets delivered over the long term as we build out Aggie Square. We're prepared to invest $1 billion into the project over the next several years to get it up and running. We're scouring currently the market to see who the right tenants will be to join the university in cultivating a sense of discovery for both life science and bioscience on the Aggie Square campus, and bring it to what we believe will be the largest concentration of life and bioscience entrepreneurial activity in Northern California since the start of that other place that's down the road a little bit that takes all the accolades for innovation. We think that it's going to pivot and it's going to come to Sacramento. There's going to be all kinds of opportunities, not just for entrepreneurs, but also for people who live in the neighborhood who want to be a part of what's going on in this new dynamic economy. So with that, one of the people who has been in the market for a very long time and is part of the economy, and I'm sure we're looking forward to being a part of going to his restaurant. I want to introduce Elgin Bradley, who is the owner of Touch of Class restaurant on Stockton Boulevard. Elgin, take it away. You're on mute, my friend.
Yeah, you need to unmute your phone.
Sorry about that. I keep forgetting. Thank you, Doug. This is a very exciting morning for me. I've been on Stockton Boulevard as a business and a property owner since 1979. I've been involved with Stockton Boulevard since the State Fair was located there, where Aggie Square is going in now. And personally, this is the most exciting thing that has happened to Stockton Boulevard since the UC Davis Medical Center purchased the Sacramento County Hospital. That's my personal opinion. With the jobs and the housing that's going to be accompanying the development of this project, it's going to be a really, really very, very important economic engine for the people who live in the surrounding neighborhoods, the people who operate businesses along Stockton Boulevard, the property owners of Stockton Boulevard, as well as the employees who will be working at Aggie Square in the UC Davis Medical Center. I think there will be an incentive for people to want to reside with the housing that's going to be accompanying this project. It's going to be a convenience because it's so closely aligned and so closely located to the major employment hub that the medical center is going to be developing there in Aggie Square. It's a very exciting time. I believe that it's the future of Stockton Boulevard is very bright. Aggie Square, as it develops over the next several years, is going to be a catalyst to attract other businesses, other industry to Stockton Boulevard, and the housing, the transportation, the jobs that accompany this development is going to really benefit the community, going to benefit the neighborhood, it's going to benefit the city as a whole. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. It has taken longer than I thought it was going to take when I moved to the Boulevard in 1979 as a business and property owner, but I'm glad I was able to stand the test of time. Thank you very much. And with those comments, then I'll conclude and I'll pass it over to our Honorable Vice Mayor Jay Chenier.
Thank you, Elgin. Better late than never, right?
Better late than never.
So I don't think anybody could have said it better than you just did. I mean, you are from this community, you are of the community, you have made it through recessions, you've made it through boom times, you're still there. And we are doing this as people who work for you, for our community. Just very quickly, a couple of thank yous and a couple of comments. I want to thank Chancellor May and start there. This could have been a UC Davis by and for development. He has chosen, and as the mayor has talked about, he has chosen that this has a double bottom line, both really making sure that the university is one of the best in the country and continuing that trend, but then also making sure that the community surrounding this development will benefit. So Chancellor, thank you for that. We wouldn't be here without you, absolutely. And thank you for choosing Oak Park. I know you had choices coming into this. I also want to thank our mayor. I don't think anyone could have negotiated. Every time we got into a hard point, we'd call the mayor, he'd call the chancellor, and they'd work it out. This is a community benefits partnership agreement, and I want to emphasize the word partnership, which is generally not the title of these agreements. This really has been a true partnership between the city, Wexford, the developer, and UC Davis. When we started this, I said many times, this could be the best thing that ever happens to the neighborhood, or it could be the worst thing. I'm pretty excited because I think we're well on the way to it being the best thing. When we first started this, we met with community. Community told us jobs, housing, and transportation were the three biggest issues that they had, and wanted to make sure that we don't have displacement on the housing, that local individuals, people who reside in the 4 zip codes around the university, will have a priority for jobs, and that the transportation impacts of bringing Aggie Square are mitigated. I think that we've not taken care of all those things, but we're well on our way to doing that. And that has really come with months and months and months of discussions. I don't even want to call them negotiations, because I think we have had the same result that we wanted, where again, we have this double bottom line on the project. The last thing I really want to talk about is accountability. We are accountable as elected officials. We are accountable to those who represent. We will work very hard, and within the Community Benefits Partnership Agreement, there are reporting requirements, there are forums that we will put out. We will keep the neighborhoods and our communities informed of what's going on, how many jobs, how many opportunities there are, how we're working with local community-based organizations to make this work. And on a regular reporting basis, people need to know what's happening here. And then finally, a couple of other thank yous really to Allison Joe and Coy Saturn, my chief of staff, and Councilmember Guerra's chief of staff, and Leslie Fritchie. Those three have really honchoed this project from day one and have spent an incredible amount of time making sure all of our ducks are in a row and that we're all doing the right thing. So I just want to say thank you to that. I don't believe this is the end. This is a signing, but this is really a beginning. And again, I want to emphasize the word partnership. We are literally years away from opening the doors. There's a lot that will go on. We've talked to our community-based organizations and our labor council about starting training so that we make sure that we have young people and adults from the neighborhood who are ready to take these jobs when they come about. We are working and moving forward on our housing. We have over 750 units of housing along Stockton Boulevard of affordable housing in process. So we will continue to work. This is really a beginning and there's lots to do. So again, just my thanks to everyone involved. I'm excited about this, and we will be accountable to our communities to make sure this works. Let me now turn it over to my partner across Stockton Boulevard, Councilmember Eric Guerra.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. And I also want to start off with the thank yous here to my Chief of Staff, Coy Saturn, and Allison Joe, and Leslie Fritchie, who, these three powerful women here have kept this project moving forward on the city side every single day. And the number of hours and meetings on the weekends and the evenings, appreciate all the work that you've done. Let me also start off by thanking, a neighbor here, Elgin Bradley, 42 years, not only a business owner, but working there at the county hospital, from my understanding, as well, since the early time frame. And even since the start of his business, he hasn't stopped working on the major issues. I want to thank you for being part of our current task force on helping address the issue of our unhoused on Stockton Boulevard too. So thank you for that commitment, and for keeping us a focus on supporting our local family businesses. The best way to describe, I think, this community benefit agreement here is a commitment to the families in our neighborhoods. It focuses on creating hope within our community. It focuses on creating opportunity for our community, and focuses on creating a future for our youth in our community. And I want to thank Chancellor May because of this, having an educational institution being the driving force in creating opportunity shows the power that we have here for the future. I know, having gotten an engineering degree, the strength that a STEM education, the opportunities that this supply chain and everything associated with biotech and health has to offer. It is a huge, powerful force. And it's about our neighborhoods here. So I want to thank that Doug Woodruff and Travis for focusing on how we make sure that this is connected with the neighborhood. Special thanks to Travis here on the youth component and your expertise that you're bringing from the 16 other examples across the country on how to engage our young elementary schools and high schools, and then the internships that are composed in this process forward. That's all part of this community benefits agreement. So thank you again, Doug and Travis, for that effort. This is clearly about how we create something that is for the community and has a powerful engine for the region by focusing on issues like the one-stop hiring that will include organizations like the Urban League, La Familia, Asian Resources, Pro Youth and Family, and our Central Labor Council and Building Trades Council. And using the zip codes and the people who already work with our community to recruit locally. That's in this community benefits agreement, a great piece there that's going to help us deliver what's in there. And the mayor mentioned it, 20% immediate and then 25% to get to. That's 1 in 4 every employee at the Aggie Square will be from the community. That's powerful. And we're creating in the CBA a mechanism to actually achieve it. So not just sending a random goal, but a mechanism to actually do that. And we want local folks to participate in these job and economic opportunities. And which is why we also have the transportation pieces in there, the right of way that the university is giving, plus the funding to be able to do the biking transportation so that our local folks can actually go and have a safe way to get to their work opportunities. Again, the last thing, this is not the end. They also include the support of creating the future EIFD for the long-term development and support for Stockton Boulevard. This is a roadmap for the entire area. It's a commitment to our families. And I want to thank everyone involved in this effort and all of the community members and neighbors who reached out to the mayor, to our vice mayor, and my office about all of the things that they wanted to see in this. I thank all of the neighborhood associations who submitted their letters, because that's how this community benefit was built. So with that, thank you very much. And I want to pass it over to another neighbor and former council member of District 6, who also lives near the Stockton Broadway area, Assembly Member Kevin McCarty.
Thank you, Council Member Guerra and Mayor Steinberg, Vice Mayor Chenier, UC Davis, and the representative from Wexford. I haven't been able to meet you yet because of that pandemic, but I'll certainly see you one day. I am in full support of this project, Aggie Square, what it will mean for our local economy, what it will mean for Sacramento, and what it will mean for the adjacent neighborhoods of Tahoe Park, Oak Park, and Elmhurst. I firmly believe that this is a net win and it will help lift up the city and these areas. And I'm not going to tell the mayor and the council how to vote on April 6th. That's your job. I voted for a few of you to get in this position, and I'm confident that that you will do right by the city of Sacramento and do right by the community. And I think looking at the highlights so far, it's the CBA is fair, it's meaningful, but also it's not done. I know that Chancellor May and the mayor and our city leaders and your state rep, me and Dr. Pan, will make sure that we continue to focus on how this can lift up the area and make this a successful project. And as the mayor said, this has potential to be one of the most significant economic development project in decades, with real measurables for jobs. I know we challenged Chancellor May to focus on when these jobs come. Let's not forget the neighbors who will be affected, who live in the adjacent zip code. So really pleased by the 25% set aside. The infrastructure issues will certainly help the area. The one issue I think is really important, and I'm glad we have a really laser focused on, is housing. That's what we heard from so many people, that it's going to bring housing, but also we're very mindful about displacement and what it could potentially mean. And I'm convinced that this will have a net benefit from the housing lens, and we'll continue to focus on that. But again, we're not done. And I heard what Elgin Baylor talked about, Elgin Baylor, excuse me.
The late Elgin Baylor.
Yeah, he was on our mind this week.
Yep.
As far as what's happened along Stockton Boulevard in the last 30 years. And the north end, we've seen the impact with the Med Center. We've seen the impact in the last 10, 15 years with Little Saigon, the south end. That middle end needs some TLC. And if you look at the list of the projects that are in the works for this, some of these have been languishing on the shelves for years. I remember one of them literally was there when I started on the council. That was 14 years ago. And so this project is going to make those ideas a reality, but also it's going to spur more opportunities in this area. And then lastly, I just want to talk about why this area. I don't want to air our dirty laundry, but the mayor and I and Chancellor May had a little bit of a debate a few years ago focusing on where this project should be. There was debate whether it should go to West Sacramento, whether it should go to the rail yards or downtown. And I was adamant that it should go where it is today, the UC Davis Med Center, which is a state asset with the University of California, which has the infrastructure and will have the opportunity to lift up the surrounding neighborhoods. I am absolutely confident that we will do so. And this project is not done. You know, I'm as a chair of the budget committee overseeing the UC budget and all of education. We have an opportunity this year to even look at the partnerships with the University of California, Davis, to bring more higher education to this campus now. And think about what that means for California. More access for higher ed there at Davis with increased capacity, and also bringing over some undergraduate programs to the Sacramento campus. We've seen what's happened with the nursing school and the medical school, and we have unlimited potential to do even more of that. So I'm certainly all in and looking forward to partnering on the next steps, and look forward to seeing this progress. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Assembly Member. We'll open it up to questions. I just want to conclude with this. I also wanted to thank Allison, Joe, and Koisei Turn as well, because they day to day, along with Leslie and the city team, have just really done great work, and you deserve our thank you. I loved Elgin Bradley's testimony as well. The historic context is so important, not just for Stockton Boulevard, but for our entire city. And if there's one message that I want to put out there today, it is this: our forgotten commercial corridors and neighborhoods are no longer forgotten. Not in this city. When we talk about inclusive economic development, we mean it. The location here of the project is vital, and the community benefits agreement is vital, and we move forward. Let's open it up to questions. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Mayor. First up is Pleshette. I'm going to click allow to talk, and then you'll have to unmute yourself. Go ahead, Pleshette. You just have to unmute yourself and you can ask your questions. Pleshette, go ahead.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Okay, so my first question was, what will exactly be done as far as media outreach in Sacramento County to ensure that Black and Brown residents between the ages of 18 to 39 years of age are reached and hired for these construction jobs, as well as other jobs, and teenagers 14 to 17 years old for summer youth training job programs relative to Aggie Square?
Vice Mayor or Councilman Guerra, why don't you take that one?
Sure. Let me start, and Eric, then you, if you want to talk about the youth piece, which I think you've been terrific on. We are putting together in partnership with community-based organizations, with the Greater Sacramento Urban League, La Familia, Asian Resources, Pro Youth and Families, with the Central Labor Council and the building trades, and SETA, a one-stop job recruitment and training facility. We are going to want to bring in other community-based organizations to work with us, as this will be really the manner in which we can get to the 20 and 25% of local hire. It's really our responsibility to work collectively with our local organizations who have the reach and the outreach capabilities that we need to tap into, to make sure, again, that folks, particularly from these 4 zip codes, but from our under-resourced neighborhoods around the city of Sacramento, including those on downtown, those in Del Paso, to make sure that we are training our young people and training our adults to be able to take these jobs. So we invite others to come in and have that discussion with us so that we can include them in this initiative. And then Eric, you want to talk about youth?
Yeah, and again, this it may be 4 years before the first door opens, But one thing about this community benefit agreement is that it requires immediate commitment to not only the job component operation, but the youth component and also community fund that will support those efforts that will be driven by local neighbors on the community fund committee. Immediately, one of the things is funding for our after school type of youth programs. One of the things that was important to see the work that that Wexford has done in other areas is that STEM type of programming, not only off campus, but on their facility as well. So working with those elementary schools in the area and the adjacent area is going to be a key part of how we move forward. But it isn't waiting 4 years down the road. We're going to start here in these 2 immediate years. And then once we do have new tech companies in here, we're going to be in the community benefit agreement. It talks about how we're going to work with them also to expand that effort.
We also, just to add one final piece, Wexford has a lot of experience working with their lessees around internships. So we expect that to happen as well. And if when we get to the community benefits partnership agreement, lots of connections between the developer and UC Davis and our school systems, whether it's K-12, charter schools, or those 3 of the community colleges as well, to make sure that we do the proper outreach and make sure that our young folks are ready for this.
That sounds really good, because Sac Cultural Hub would definitely like to be involved early on in making sure to reach as many Black and brown communities within the Sacramento counties and the 4 zip codes that you mentioned. So they are very aware of how to prepare a lot of these teenagers and the young adults that are a part of these community-based programs. A lot of them weren't mentioned that you talked about, but you did say that you are going to be reaching out for partnerships with those CBOs. So that's good. Now, my second question is that—
And let me really quickly, I want to include the API community as well.
Yeah,
Right.
how many callers do we have in the queue? We've got a lot of callers.
We have lots of questions. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to Kris Hooks from CapRadio. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. This is a 2-parter, but both of them are essentially part of the same question. One, when you mentioned communities getting access to the, looking at here, 5,000 construction jobs, roughly 4,000 permanent jobs after everything is built. When you say community, do you mean the greater Sacramento community, or are we speaking specifically zip codes and neighboring or neighborhoods surrounding Aggie Square? And
zip codes.
And then also specifically, how will you guys be tracking to make sure that that's actually happening?
In the CBA, it does have the reporting requirements, and we also are going to have. In the last night of our community forum, we're going to have scheduled community forums so that there's reporting out on those efforts. Plus, also the requirement of also full-time equivalent employees. So in the CBA, we're actually making benchmarks, making sure that and reporting out requirements so that we keep all of ourselves accountable on that progress. Vice Mayor and Mayor, do you want to talk about that aspect?
No, metrics are important. Accountability is important. We know that. We are also going to bring this as an ordinance or a resolution to the City Council. The mayor has talked a lot about that to make sure we are on record and make this something that we'll hold ourselves accountable for, that the community can hold us accountable for, and we will in turn hold all of our partners accountable for that.
So let me, that I just want to reemphasize this last point. The community benefits agreement that the council will hopefully approve on April the 6th will essentially be the law for the city of Sacramento. It will be the city's binding obligation to follow through, and the community will hold us accountable appropriately. And it's our job to ensure that the reporting towards the numbers are consistent, that we are using the city council as a public forum, which we will do to constantly evaluate our progress, and to continue with what has begun with 100+ meetings with and in the community to not only report out, but also recognize that the CBA is a living document, that over time, it can be amended obviously with the consent of all of the parties, but it can be amended and be strengthened as we experience together this project.
Excellent. Next up is Tony Bijak from SACB.
Hi, you've got a couple of lawsuits on this project, one in particular, the Sacramento Investment Without Displacement Group. Have you talked to them? Are you planning to talk to them? What's your sense of whether this agreement can make that lawsuit go away?
Well, let me try. First of all, the contents of this community benefits agreement are responsive to the concerns expressed by the coalition in every way. I hope that this agreement, as it becomes public and it is considered, that the plaintiffs and the larger community see that the city is focused on the community. And of course, we are always willing to entertain discussions, but, and there's no but to that, we'll entertain the discussions, but we stand strongly behind this agreement because it responds to what I understand to be the underlying reason for the lawsuit in the first place. And yes, there are informal discussions that are occurring. This should not be litigated. The community is our partner. And unfortunately, at least for a temporary period of time, the plaintiffs here are litigants, but we'd like to fix that and change that and bring them back into the fold as partners.
Next up, we have Felicia from SAC Business Journal.
Hey there. Well, that was my question too. But considering, that there are 2 lawsuits against the project, what does this mean for your schedule to break ground on it? Do you guys have a new estimate on when you hope to break ground on Aggie Square?
Go ahead, Doug.
I guess I'll take that one.
Yeah.
I think assuming that we get the opportunity to now move forward, we've been spending a lot of time to make sure we got this right, the community benefits work, and that we had this 3-party partnership to make that happen. I think we're now very much prepared with our partners at the university to move forward with our design. Notwithstanding some of the impediments that were mentioned a minute ago, our expectation would be that we will be starting construction in the early part of 2022. All things considered, given that what we've been through in the last year in terms of COVID and the restrictions that a lot of us have had in terms of planning, we think that's still a very realistic goal. And if we make that goal in the first quarter of 2022, we expect it roughly 2 years for the completion of the first buildings.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next up is Yusuf from SACB.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I wanted to ask a question about the $50 million for affordable housing. One provision in there is $5 million for anti-displacement programs. Can someone explain kind of what that means and what sort of methods those $5 million will be going towards to avoid displacement?
Well, should I take this one, guys? You want me to, or do you want to, Rick?
Go ahead.
So the majority of the resources that we are going to put into a separate trust fund for the Stockton Boulevard corridor will be to subsidize new affordable housing development of various kinds. The $5 million is specifically for anti-displacement strategies for existing owners and tenants living in the Stockton Boulevard corridor. Some of the strategies can include home repair assistance, could include rental assistance, for people who are struggling. Now, we do have a significant amount of federal and state resources now, $31 million for rental assistance arising out of COVID. But for the longer term, we want to make sure that we have $5 million, at least, these are minimums, $5 million to help any existing homeowner or tenant in the area who is struggling to maintain their residency.
I would just add potentially mortgage assistance as well. We want to make sure people have the opportunity to stay in their homes, that they're not displaced, and that they benefit from this initiative.
And Jay, let me jump in here from a state perspective.
Sure.
So all the issues from the community were important, but the issue that really I think rang true is the issue of housing and displacement. So that's an issue that we're all on the same page on. And I can say that on the state level, there's two things that I'm working on related to this and housing. One, I introduced a bill, it's going to be heard in the next few weeks, which talks about state land that we have over there at the Med Center, which is underutilized. There's a Department of Justice crime lab, which looks like we'll be moving to a new location in the coming years, as well as a state EDD building. Both of those have the opportunity to be surplus land, and my bill would specify that that land would be for Aggie Square project housing, not just market rate housing, but affordable housing. And that right there is embedded within the UC Davis footprint. Secondly, as the mayor said, we have a lot of federal money. The budget's doing very well. So I'm looking at from the state level in my capacity here with the budget committee to see if we can put further one-time money to jumpstart housing right there on the Med Center campus to make sure that we take care of the graduate students who don't make a lot of money, the workers, especially the low-wage workers. Let's face it, the high-tech workers, they can afford to get a house in ESAC, Elmhurst, or elsewhere. But we want to make sure the workers at the bottom level don't displace the adjacent neighborhoods. So I think we have an obligation and there's a real opportunity. So I'll be looking to focus on potential budget allocations and earmarks for this purpose.
We do have about 600 plus 650 units coming on Stockton Boulevard that do have a financing gap, which is what this will help us achieve. So this isn't just pretend pie in the sky ideas. There are actual locations. The most immediate one is over 200 units on Stockton Boulevard near the John's Furniture side, not too far from Elgin Bradley's a touch of class. So all those efforts combined, along with the mortgage assistance, is intended to look at not keeping people in their home, but also any additional pressure that comes from the project.
All right, next up we have Tony from Sac Observer.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah. Hey, Tony.
Great. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say, Mr. Elgin Bradley, you've been a valuable presence in the community, especially along that Stockton Boulevard corridor. But I've been here for almost 32 years, and as far as development for the Black community, and I know the word and entrepreneurship been bandied about. When this thing builds out, what is the opportunities for more communities outside the Asian American community and the Pacific Islander community, which they do very well in those areas as far as businesses? What are the opportunities for Black communities to be part of some entrepreneurship programs connected to this Aggie Square project to basically, I'm trying to say to create businesses. There are hardly any Black businesses north of Broadway on that Stockton Boulevard, if any. Maybe very few south of Broadway on the Stockton Boulevard. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of effort to for the city or the county or UC Medical Center to create programs to attract people from the Black community to start their own businesses. So could someone please tell me, where did that lie? Can you, Chancellor Gary May? Elgin, you need to be part of this. Of course, Steinberg, Mayor Steinberg, what is that? A few years ago, there was an opportunity for a business to be put there right there at 4th Avenue in Stockton. That didn't happen, I understand. how the community reacted to that. I think right now there was a facility built their medical supply out of San Francisco, if I'm not mistaken. But there's just still it's just not that push. And right now is a good time to bring entrepreneurship awareness across all community, especially the Black community. So please, can somebody answer that?
Well, go ahead. I would just say I will define the city's success and the project's success by whether or not we are successful in including all of the diversity elements in this project, including the African-American community. Look at, we've talked a lot over the last several years in the wake of Stephon Clark and George Floyd, not just about police and communities of color, but about economic inclusion and economic empowerment and the plight of the African-American community and African-American businesses. And so that imperative is in part how we will measure whether or not we are successful here. The African-American community and business owners need to have a fair shot here, and more than a fair shot, they need to be a big part of the development of Aggie Square. Jay and Eric?
No, I think Travis has some examples of things that they've done, and talk about the Innovation Center.
Yeah, Tony, thank you so much for your question. Just as a brief introduction, I'm Travis Sheridan with Wexford Science and Technology. And, you know, a couple of things that we look at, one, we do have a lot of entrepreneurial programming, and I often say that depending on where you live, you use the word entrepreneur or you use the word hustler, but they really mean the exact same thing. And what we try to do is ensure that we are demystifying that entire journey for whoever wants to participate in it. And so as part of the programming that we expect to see at Aggie Square, we have, usually it's weekly programming. Even in the midst of COVID, it's happening weekly, either virtually or we'll be soon moving to in person, where there's 8 to 10 sessions for people that are interested in entrepreneurship or hustling. And they're across sector. And so, you know, there was a great example that I saw here in St. Louis where I live, where a Black filmmaker was able to spend 45 minutes talking to a bioscientist, and they just talked about the art of storytelling, because the bioscientist, as he said, spoke at the petri dish level, and the filmmaker knew how to humanize stories. And they ended up doing some projects together, and that African-American filmmaker, helped that bioscientist with some content for his website, and then also the pitch. The other thing that we look at, and this is really true that I see in the Black community, is that we have a lot moving people from being consumers to producers, whether that's in fashion, because they like to wear cool clothes and they want to create a t-shirt line. If it's in music, where they love listening to music, but they want to be a producer, or if it's in the gaming community where they love playing video games, but they want to start creating their own video games. Those types of programs that help people along that journey so they can move from just consuming things to producing things and becoming entrepreneurs or hustlers, whichever word they want to use, is really part of the success that we see in these innovation districts, where it's not happening in silos. We don't have programming for the Black folks and then programming for the white folks. This is programming for entrepreneurs and hustlers together at the same time. Mayor, thank you for letting me share, and Vice Mayor Chenier, thank you for letting me share a few words.
And the only thing I'll add on this is that, go ahead, Elgin.
Yeah, if I may, I've got a comment regarding Tony's concern, and that is that in 1979, there was probably 30 African-American owned businesses along Stockton Boulevard. Over the years, there have been obstacles that people have had a difficult time to overcome in order to survive and sustain themselves, and they've relocated over a period of time. One of the things, Ben, is that on both the city and the county side of the street, parking was always part of the ability for consumers to be able to park on the west side as well as the south side, the east side of Stockton Boulevard, and that was eliminated. And when that was eliminated and no other parking was substituted for it, then it made it that much more difficult to be able to get consumers to stop and patronize the businesses along Stockton Boulevard, so they relocated. I believe there may be 3 that I can identify that's on Stockton Boulevard now, maybe more, but 3, including one being myself. But with what's coming on now on the boulevard, what's happening with Aggie Square, the influence, the presence, Also, we have to try to overcome the reputation of Stockton Boulevard. And I believe that this is going to really help to enhance and the reputation of Stockton Boulevard, simply because there's so much going on there. People will notice that more so than the things that they hear. And I think it will attract African-American businesses, people of color, back to the boulevard, and we'll end up with a very viable business district along the boulevard as a result of that.
Well, Elgin, I do want to thank you for bringing that up too. And the reason why I brought this up too, because there's a Ross department store that just opened up in, I believe, during the pandemic crisis. And I've been in that store and it looked like it's doing really well. So there's people coming to that area. There is traffic there. My only concern, and I say this as a journalist, I say this as a human, the Black community needs to be a part of that. They've been around that area for decades. And I understand, the parking situation. When I go to your restaurant, I have to park in a residential area sometimes, to attend some of the function they go on and touch a class, at times. But this is a critical time. I mean, for all communities, but the Black community, they need to be a part of this. And Mr. Travis Sheridan, I want to thank you for bringing that up too. These things need to be communicated to the community, at least media outlets, so we can let these people know and understand that there's opportunities for them. So that's my commentary on that. But thank you all.
Thank you so much. We have Kris from CapRadio with a follow-up question.
Yeah, back to the jobs thing. Assemblymember McCarty mentioned it briefly just a few minutes ago, but in terms of the permanent jobs that'll be once Aggie Square is built, I know the 20 to 25%. I know Councilmember Guerra said it could go up to 25% as a goal, but knowing that those more permanent jobs are going to be there for local community members, what types of jobs are those? Because as Assemblymember McCarty mentioned, a lot of jobs in this area, this industry, tech, business, health, are higher paying jobs, but are any of those higher paying jobs available for people in the local community? And if not, what are some of the other jobs that would be available, and are they enough to keep people in the community as
Kris,
prices go up?
Oh, no, good. Kris, good question for that. This isn't just also about the future jobs, but also the current jobs at the health center campus. So part of what the one-stop approach is intended to do is identify what are all the variety of jobs. Also looking, I think Travis mentioned this, and maybe he can expand on it, looking at which jobs do these jobs really require a 4-year degree, which many times are an obstacle into higher wage jobs that our local community can benefit. So in combination with the one-stop and using our workforce partners and recruiting locally, reevaluating which jobs really need a 4-year degree, or can we just we'll look at any 18-month programming or working with the community colleges. That'll help within the local area. Plus, it's the active effort of targeting the zip codes. But Travis, maybe you could talk about a little bit about on that aspect as well.
Yeah,
Jay, I think you had some comments there too.
When we look across our innovation districts or knowledge communities across the United States, one of the things that we notice is that between 25 and 40% of these jobs can be secured without a formal 4-year education. And that is through community college programs, short-term workforce development programs, certificate programs. And these are still living wage and if not higher paying jobs because they are in the biosciences, they are in tech. And the other thing that we often have seen, or that we look at, is not just for industry, but also some of our academic partners to take a closer look at re-rating jobs, taking a look and seeing if a 4-year degree is truly required, or if that is a barrier to accessibility. But we have had conversations with Los Rios Community College in our other cities, whether it's St. Louis or Winston-Salem, North Carolina, or Baltimore. We partner very closely with the community college programs because those are often the opportunity to get first-generation students into the workforce very quickly and into great career fields.
If I could just add too, my name's Bob Seeger. I'm leading the planning for Aggie Square for UC Davis for Chancellor May. To Travis's point, and the technical level jobs that are going to be available at Aggie Square, we know that there's going to be a lot of new investment in life sciences and med tech and those kinds of jobs because of the strength of UC Davis in those areas. So our continuing professional education program has already started planning for a life sciences training collaborative so that some of those jobs in the life sciences that require technical training but don't necessarily require a four-year degree or higher are already in place, piloted with community college, with community-based organizations in the workforce arena so that people are ready for those jobs by the time the doors open.
Jay, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
No, I'm good. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I would just add. I would just add. I'm sorry. It's really important that as we track the progress and the 20% and the 25%, that we do break the numbers down and understand the local hiring percentage for the higher wage jobs, and that's something that we will focus on appropriately.
Okay, putting out it looks like Kris just messaged me. He's got one more follow-up question, and then this will be the final call for anybody else from the media that wants to ask a question after that.
Yeah, it's actually going off of what Mayor Steinberg just mentioned in terms of tracking those jobs. I guess if by chance going through tracking, you guys are not meeting these goals, the 20% goals are not being met, what happens then? What happens next?
So I want to go a little bit back towards context on this because I think it's really important. We have some responsibility, and this is why we're working with our community-based organizations and our labor organizations on this one stop. We need to be able to do the training. We need to understand what the jobs are and what the training is. So if we're not meeting, and I believe we will meet and we will blow through these numbers as they've done in Oakland with a similar facility run with the Labor Council there. But if we are not meeting, we need to understand why, and we need to make sure that there are enough folks from the neighborhoods who are qualified applying for the jobs that are open at Aggie Square. And if there are pieces not working, we need to work in partnership to make them work. This is a priority for the city, and it's a priority for the businesses that will be locating in Aggie Square because they need a good workforce. We know that's the number one issue when businesses move to an area is what is the quality of the workforce that they can get. So that's where we are.
Okay.
When will the CBA will be out publicly when?
Next week. It will be on the city's website, on Councilmember Guerra's website, on my website, on UC Davis website, too. And on the mayor's website and on the city's. So it will be out next week. We hope the middle of next week. We are in the attorney phase of making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
All right, Andrew, do we have, we don't have any more questions of the queue. This is like last call. If anybody wants to ask anything else, I think probably have time for just a couple more.
Yep, last call for questions. Anybody else that's still on that needs to ask anything, go for it right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew, facilitating a very organized press conference. Thank you to everyone who participated. Thank you. April the 6th, City Hall, we're going to take a big vote, an important vote for the future of the city. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Members of the press, just a quick FYI, I will have a recording available for this, but it'll also be available on YouTube and on engagesac.org. So please reach out to me, Kehoe at cityofsacramento.org if you would like a recording of this. Thank you so much.
And Elgin, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you guys for inviting me. I really appreciate being here. Okay, have a great evening.
Bye-bye.
Have a good one, Elgin. Bye, everybody.